Lesson 4 in Module 1 will cover how to always make progress and a way to avoid demotivation when plateauing in the gym. Even when we are giving our best effort, we still need to have a plan when progress seems to stop. Let's talk about it. All right, lesson 4, jumping into always making progress. To start this lesson, we need to cover another dysfunctional belief. It says, I should always make progress if I am giving 100% effort. I think this makes a lot of logical sense, but in reality, that belief is kind of treating our own selves as robots. We are expecting we put in this effort and we get this reward. In reality, our bodies are dynamic living beings and we are amazing adaptation machines. And so the healthy reframe of this is, my body adapts to what is hard. I must periodize to keep progressing over time. And that word periodize references periodization, which is a term I will kind of dive into here in the next slides. But back to this idea of adaptation machines. My body adapts to what is hard. What was once hard for us in the past can become easy work for us now as we grow. Progress in the gym comes from knowing how to best spend our effort. Thankfully, training methods and fundamentals, those will never change as we've covered them in the last methods, but individual exercises and movement patterns overall, those can become less engaging the more we use them over time. Sometimes in the gym, you will get a feeling like you are just stuck and your progress is not continuing to improve like it has in the weeks before. So, what is a plateau? Well, we know we have to be consistent with our workout routine, and 90% of our work will be somewhat the same. But when a large chunk of our work in the gym doesn't improve for about 3 to 4 weeks in a row and you aren't setting any PRs, that is when you are in a plateau. And this could be for several reasons. It could be poor nutrition, bad sleep. We could just be going to new gyms all the time and we just haven't had that consistency of the same place to get the same sort of workouts and exercises in. And sometimes life just happens and we miss workouts. So what do we do when we are in this rut and we feel like progress just is not coming? We also need to acknowledge that the worst part of this is most likely just the mental demotivation we can get. And so when we think about these two questions, what do we do when we plateau? We most likely kind of give up our routines and we just don't have the motivation to keep going and show up and do that work that is pretty much the same 90% of the time. So what type of plan could we create in order to not plateau and not experience this mental demotivation that we can get? Well, let's come back to the idea that your body only knows resistance. And so if you look at these 3 exercises, they are essentially all the same exercise. They are all an incline pressing movement. This one just happens to be an incline dumbbell press. This one is an incline barbell press. And this one is a push-up with your feet elevated. So that way you are essentially doing an incline movement similar to the other presses as well. Your body only knows the resistance of these exercises and the muscles being used. And so we can create a plan that when you plateau on one of these exercises, you can swap in a similar movement variation in order to still make progress in that movement pattern, but it just happens to be different enough to give your body a new stimulus. This is the idea of periodization. It's just the process of using different mini cycles, blocks, periods to make training more engaging and effective. So, how is this going to look in this program? I think there is an 8-week sweet spot. One, you can't accurately track without trying to make progress for at least 4 weeks on the same current training block. But you can start to expect plateaus when keeping workouts the same for longer than 8 weeks. And so what do we do when we expect plateaus? Well, we can just start to swap things up on that 8-week mark. Every 8 weeks, I recommend you swap up your training cycle to refresh your goals and your mental engagements. That way you are excited to show up to the gym and you can smash PRs and you can feel your best. Now, I will say, do not fall into the trap of always changing your routine like 2 to 3 weeks in, but try and stick to 8 weeks for each training block before you swap to another one. Now, life does happen and we are not robots, so we just can't expect our routines to work perfectly. So what happens when we still plateau in that 4 to 8 week sweet spot? Well, if we know that a plateau is no progress or a dip in progress for about 2 to 3 weeks in a row, and it comes before that 8-week sweet spot, we can just go ahead and start that new training block as if it was the end of that 8 weeks. So that way we can avoid the plateau and the mental demotivation we can get. The reason this works is because we know the fundamentals and we know training methods to make any exercise effective. So if we can just simply choose similar exercises, we can stick to the fundamentals and the methods and still have a good workout. So be the type of person that can make any workout a good workout. And so these are both rowing exercises, and this approach only works if you can nail the fundamentals. So if you can do both of these exercises while picking a challenging weight, training somewhat close to failure, and using one of those 3 training methods in a workout program that I provide, you will still make progress week after week, so long as you do have your nutrition and your sleep in check. So what does a year of progress look like with this approach in mind? Well, if you have 3 workout variations of that sort of similar workout program, you can stack them together to create 6 months of progress with those 3 variations. If you just repeat that 2 times in a row, you have your year of progress. If you notice, these are all exercises that create similar results, but they're done different enough to make your workouts fresh and engaging. So for your first training block, you could have just a general full body focus. But then you can swap in a new training block, and instead of just a full body general focus for the next 8 weeks, you can try and focus on just your back and bringing that up and making more progress with rowing exercises and being able to get really strong with any sort of pull up and chin up variations. And then after that back focused training block, you'll swap it up for the next 8 weeks and focus on really bringing up and getting strong with your shoulders. The last thing I'll point out here with exercises and periodization is that there's often really creative ways to do body weight exercises instead of always relying on free weight exercises. If you'll notice, handstand or pike push-ups are a great alternative to, say, seated dumbbell shoulder presses or overhead barbell presses. So connecting this back to the goal of 12 pounds of muscle in 1 year, you need to get stronger, and you can do more than this, but you need to take it 1 to 2 months at a time. If you can nail the fundamentals for 8 weeks in a row, then make some slight changes and keep going, you'll find yourself making amazing consistent progress year round. You may expect that slight dip when you start that first week again, doing a new training block with new exercises, but you shouldn't find yourself getting stuck in plateaus if you can properly use periodization in your routine. The last thing to cover in this module is how you can use cardio and supplements in your routine to make progress come just a little bit faster. So you'll see me there.